Hey, hi Adi. How are you doing today?
Hi, everyone. Good.
Yeah, doing good, Adi. So Adi has been a really great supporter for hockey from day one. Has been a great well-wisher, design partner, adopter. You can call it any of these so far. And he's, I think most of you guys would already know Adi if you are active in LinkedIn and active in D2C and so on. And Adi is someone who has experience across marketing, D2C, and he has worked in various companies like GSK, Dabur, and he's now leading 367 agency and so on. So yeah, Adi, it will be great if you can maybe help us understand a little bit about yourself, your journey from all the way from maybe an intern at Dabur to right now, like leading a large agency and building in between building a really big D2C brand as well. If you can take us through your journey a little bit so far, that'll be great to get started with.
Awesome. First of all, thank you so much for having. And like you mentioned, hockey has been something that I've been involved with, and we're always cheering on the product. And I think so far, whatever progress has happened has been really great. Just coming back to my background, and this is really old, right? I've become very old. So the journey started back in 2007, right after MBA. And like anybody who was into sales and marketing and gets into B school, the holy grail is get into FMCG, right? And that's how my career started. So I joined Dabur in 2007. Did a full 1 year. It's more 9 months than 1 year with the management training stint. After which you get into sales. So I got into sales and I was working out of UP. I was handling sales territory based out of Lucknow. So I did that for a couple of years. After that, I moved to GSK GlaxoSmithKline, their consumer business, where I did trade marketing for about year and a half, 2 years. And then I was part of the brand team in Horlicks. So I was handling a bit of the Horlicks portfolio as a brand manager and then later as well. End of 2015, I wanted to start something on my own. And that time I was fairly interested in running CrossFit, everything related to fitness. And there was a very clear opportunity where especially for CrossFit, the products in India weren't available, right? As in you wouldn't find anything that you would need. Typically, what would end up happening is that if a friend or somebody was planning to the US, you would ask them to bring a bunch of stuff back, right? Or you would just order on the website and pay customs and get stuff in. So that's how that business started. It was called the Sweatshop. That me and another co-founder of mine started that. And we also wanted to set up a gym back in the day, but that never happened. But we turned into a product business. And these were the early days. Yeah. So this was when very few Shopify stores existed. Um, Amazon Seller Flex as a model wasn't launched yet, and a bunch of other things were very, very new to the ecosystem. Right? So yeah, ran that till end of 2019, where I exited out of that business, and with another management training partner, a friend of mine, Vishay, whom obviously you know, uh, Vishay and I set up a consulting agency, consulting sort of business. Earlier, we used to be called Info Business Consulting. So for the first 4.5 years of our existence, we were known as Info Business Consulting. And a few months back, we've kind of rebranded ourselves to 367. And yeah, over the last 5 years, we've worked with about 150 odd brands across D2C category, most D2C categories. Plus, we also do work with mainline brands. So largely work around brand strategy, performance marketing, creative, etc., etc. That's largely what we do.
Great, Adi. Thanks a lot. I think that's a really great set of experience, right? I want to particularly deep dive into some of those parts of it. You have worked particularly with a lot of, I mean, 150 plus D2C brands is really great, right? So maybe can you give us some picture of how marketing function in a D2C brand evolves? Let's say first, maybe different stages, right? First, you probably early stage, you would want to set up a strong foundation and so on. And in the growth stage to figure out probably, let's say, what's working and double down there and so on, like course correct for scaling and so on. And probably in the established stage, how to probably, let's say, uh, uh, keep the leadership position and how to probably like grow forward and so on. So maybe can you take us through the life cycle of this function altogether? Let's say how it starts, how it evolves, and how it probably like matures forward.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think initially the marketing function is essentially the founder, right? Uh, at the beginning, that's it. And a founder, through his own vision about the kind of brand that the founder wants to launch and the kind of product category that the founder wants to get into, works with a set of, I think, agency partners to do a basic setup around the brand, right? And typically that setup would include setting up the visual language of the brand, et cetera, setting up the website, packaging design, all of that, right? That is the first piece that a founder does, while simultaneously developing product as well, right? While you'll hear that supply chain in India around product manufacturing has become fairly easy, it's not still that easy to execute, right? Because you want to create differentiation on base products anyway. So the formulations are unique, potentially some raw ingredients are unique, etc., etc. So it takes a little bit of effort, and a lot of the early time of the founder goes into setting up the product, right? So now we've come to a place where we have a large kind of brand visual language in place, and we have product ready, right? That is the time when founders start reaching out to agencies like us and a whole bunch of other agencies which exist, where the idea is that they have a certain market in mind, they have a certain consumer profile in mind, saying that these would be the most likely to buy a product. How do we reach them, right? Uh, for most categories that exist, the first go-to is D2C,
Okay.
and not necessarily marketplaces, right? And there are certain categories where exceptions exist, where there is intrinsic demand within marketplaces, and where you can kind of
Okay.
launch and scale a brand on marketplace alone. But typically, in case you want to do concept selling and you want to talk about product differentiation, D2C provides a better opportunity because you can do storytelling, right? As in you can run ads on Meta, you can run ads on Google as a platform, where the ability to for the brand to communicate is much better than what a marketplace offers. Because in a marketplace, you're limited by their structures and templates. So a founder will go down that path, and then what will start happening is that as the scaling journey increases, depending on how rapidly the brand is scaling and the core capability of the founders themselves, right? They'll start adding on team members within the team, right? The first set of team members which are added in the marketing function are essentially people who become the spokes for the agency.
Yeah.
So the
Okay.
founder can then kind of get their time freed up and do more strategic things, right? And strategic things for the founder at this stage could include either new product development, exploring new marketing channels, distribution channels, even fundraisers, right? Fundraisers, those things
Yes.
will take a lot of time, right?
True.
So that's the first set of things, right? And then you start finding that there is certain things where you want to create internal capability. And what I've seen over time is a lot of brands take social media in-house first, right? And along the journey, they take on performance marketing is pretty much the last which brands get in-house, right?
Yeah.
And
Okay.
then the team kind of evolves and structures around that, right?
Mm.
Now, as brands start scaling, and different people do this at different eras, but largely, then you start having brand teams. So if you get into a place where you have, let's say, 3 4 brands that you have launched, right, or there are sub brands, or your products are structured around categories, you would have one
Mm.
person to lead one business
Correct.
or one brand pod, if you want to call it a pod, and there'll be others, and then they'll kind of report to a marketing head, etc., etc. Right?
Yes. Mm.
So you start mirroring how mainline marketing teams are structured, right? So the mainline, let's say, for example, if you go to any FMCG company, there'll be a marketing director, there'll be category heads, right? Within category heads, there'll be brand teams, and then there'll be a support team which will exist, which will consist of research, digital, uh, consumer activation, and stuff like that, depending on what kind of business you are into, right? And these
Okay.
teams kind of overlap with all the brand teams, and so you start mirroring that structure over time. So that's how teams
Mm.
typically evolve.
Got it. Got it, Abhi. And when do they? Now, maybe I'll take it through this way. Where when does this split of brand versus performance come in this picture? And like, what is the right time to probably, let's say, start focusing on brand, or let's say where brand is important, where performance is important, and how does this evolve over time?
So I know this is a question that gets debated very often, right? As in brand
Yeah.
versus
Yeah.
performance. I don't look at it that way, right?
Okay.
Uh,
Interesting. Okay.
if you are asking from the lens of media allocation, right? that what percentage of media should I be allocating to certain set of creatives, which where the intent of that creative is not necessarily to drive revenue. That media allocation,
Okay.
should happen at a scale where, and it should be a percentage of your overall spend, right? At the
Yeah.
early stage.
Correct.
So let's say you start with deploying 10 to 15% of your overall media budget, or for the lack of a better word, brand awareness, and the rest of it goes across various channels of performance marketing, right? As in, that's how you start.
Okay.
Eventually, when you start scaling, these numbers start flipping, right? So the percentage of spends on brand keeps going up as your brand keeps scaling, and the percentage of spends on performance will reduce, right? So you potentially get to a place where 70% of your marketing money, media buying, will happen on brand and 30% will happen on performance, right? As in, if you're a 500, 600,000 crore brand, that's how the mix will change, right? That's a function of GTM, that's a function of category, that's a function of distribution, right? As in, if you're potentially available in 20,000 outlets across 10 major metros in the country, you want to give enough visibility and air cover to the brand for offtakes to happen from those stores, right? So that ratio keeps changing with time. But I think the key distinction, so the disclaimer here is that anything that you do, right, as in any sort of brand communication, number one is driven for business growth, right? That's the baseline, right?
Yeah.
I think the way teams start confusing this is there's a certain type of messaging which is considered more, oh, this is brand messaging versus this is performance, right? So, for example, if you look at the world of the way Nike kind of advertise, right? As in Nike, the impossible is nothing is Adidas, but just do it. Those kind of campaigns, right, where they were more thematic, where they were more about motivating people to train, and etc. etc. That is what largely people perceive as brand building, right? There are various examples where brands talk about very, very functional things, right? And one of the global brands in the GSK portfolio now, Vigion, is Sensodyne. Sensodyne has built $1 billion business. We're just talking about one thing, that like consumption of something hot and cold, if there's a sensation in your mouth, that is because of sensitivity. This one single message has been delivered across for like 20 odd years across different creatives across the world. Now, is this a performance ad? Is this building brand? What is this doing? Right? This is being run on TV, right? This is also being run on digital. This is being run everywhere, right?
Yeah.
So you have to kind of put things in perspective. But the short answer to the question is that the mix of media changes with scale, right? And is a function of pattern. But anything and everything that you're putting out essentially is number one, driving revenue, which means it's in some sense performance. And number two, it's meant to build brand, which in some senses everything is brand building as well, right? So it's just that the campaign structures keep changing. As in, you're looking at a conversion event versus a video view event and stuff like that, right? As in, but largely the mental construct is something else.
Got it, Adi. And I think you brought up that point of like the spends across channels like TV, media, spend across media, right? So how does that evolve over time? Like as you said, like most of the times the brands will start with the D2C perspective, like their own channel. Like now, obviously, you get access to Meta and Google on day one, and like you can get started there. But how does this evolve? Like, and when do more channels come into picture? And like when do TV comes in, and when does maybe let's say offline comes in, and so on? Like, is there any timeline towards that across?
Again, it's a category specific thing, right? As in, there'll be certain categories where, especially high AOV categories. So suppose if you launch a mobile phone which is above 1 lakh rupees at the 1 lakh plus price point, potentially you'll never need to go on. Or your TG who's going to be able to buy it. All of them you can cover 100% reach within TG, potentially could be possible via digital channels. So it's a function of the TG. How much does each channel allow you to reach that TG, right? So for example, if in India there are 100 people and there are only 30 people on digital and you want to target 60, you want to find the next channel, right? At a CPM level, TG still is the cheapest, right? And because of its large base, The media cost of TV is cheaper than digital. But
Okay.
there is an entry barrier, right? You need to start campaigns
Yes.
with a certain threshold. As in, you can't start a 5,000 rupee campaign, which is why digital works for a certain scale. Function of PG and what you want to achieve. So there's no hard and fast coded rules. But I would guess that if your media budget annually is under, I don't know, if it's not about 40-50 crores, you wouldn't want to go down the path of TV. Unless you're selling categories where the audience is primarily off digital, right? As in, if you're selling those kind of categories, then it's a different ballgame altogether. But you would need those kind of budgets annually to make some sort of significant impact via non-digital
Got it.
channels.
Got it, Adi. Any recent channel or new channel that you saw probably little interesting, which was not there earlier uh, uh, in the recent times, Adi?
I think both Connected TV and OTT, and both these things are,
Connected TV and OTT.
yeah. And again, there are overlaps. I think those are very interesting ways of reaching your audiences. And it effectively just mirrors TV, right? As in, it's a truncated version of TV behavior. So I think those are good channels for brands to explore.
Got it. And that also gives a little bit of measurement, or rather, like it also gives you a combination of maybe a digital plus TV experience, right? You have an ability to measure the campaigns. You have ability to maybe even understand the demographical efficiency and so on and so forth, right?
Yeah.
Have you tried any of those recently? Like, have you tried connected TV campaigns?
We've done some work on OTT for a few of our partner brands, and results have been promising.
Oh, nice. How would you measure it? Like more like TV measurement angle or from a digital measurement? Like, is there anything that changes there?
No, so I think the measurement metrics are fairly digital oriented. You'll get all metrics that you'll potentially get on digital.
Okay,
But
all the metrics
obviously the CTRs are low, and because somebody's actually watching content, right? As in, that's not a metric, but all the other precursor metrics behind CTR, you should be able to get all those metrics on those platforms as well.
Okay, got it. And maybe just before even going to that, or let's say diving there, how do you keep yourself updated with respect to all the changes that are going with respect to both, let's say, brand level, consumer behavior level, or let's say the tech standpoint and so on? I think a lot of changes going on at a channel, or the way how the algorithms work, digital marketing algorithms work, and the tech stack needed to be able to adopt to that, as well as the strategy changes that are needed to adopt to that, and so on, right? So I think now probably is the time where the marketers are supposed to be updated on too many things at a single point of time, right? So how do you cope up to that, and what are the ways to make sure that you are up in your game?
So 2-3 things, right? Any platform update will be published by the platform, right? That's one. If you start listening to even the summaries of potentially quarterly earning reports of both Meta and Google, which are primary platforms, they will talk about some sort of future-facing initiatives that they're going to be doing, right? As in when they're looking at launching what, right? So, for example, one of the interesting things that came out in the last Q2 report of Meta was that their revenue from advertising went up by 9%, right? And this money is coming from our partner brands. So that media inflection is happening, right? And they are very happy about it, which is rightly so, because their business is to grow revenue from advertising. So that's one source, right? One source is just platform updates. The other source is quarterly calls and reports, summaries, as in those kind of things. That's one. And plus, if you follow a few people on LinkedIn, there are a bunch of people who are also writing constantly or what is new. So I think a combination of those sources plus just general curiosity, right? As in, once you find something of interest, you just go down that rabbit hole, right? So that helps. General curiosity generally helps. So a lot of that, for example, there's so much happening on AI wrappers, right? As in, everybody's making something or the other, and it's impossible to keep up, right? Every day there are 5 new tools which are getting launched, which will change the world completely. But you kind of sift through things, right? So my team is very active doing that. So today morning I had a conversation with somebody who's discovered 2 new tools for design, right? So we actively test, we learn, we figure out whether it's working for our kind of work that we're trying to do. And then if something can get integrated into our workflow, we take it. Otherwise, we move on to it. So I think it's a bunch of different things.
Got it. Got it, Adi. Any good both podcasts or like other influencers that to follow to get these kind of updates?
So I'm honestly a big fan of two three people. One is Joe Rogan, as in I keep watching. It's not business related, right? But
Yeah.
there's not too much there's not
Yes.
too much business which comes out of that.
Mm,
As in for me, top two three are Joe Rogan, Stephen Bartlett, which is Johnny the CEO, and I do like these are two three podcasts. So, but also a bunch of podcasts which have been done by Indian founders, right? So obviously,
mm,
Nihal Kamat's podcast is very
yeah.
valuable. I think even
Yeah.
even Shantanu's podcast from the Bombay Sharing Company is very valuable. And there's another podcast which has been done by two three people, uh, and which is Revant Vizekwa, this is founder Shantanu, and there's a third person whose name I don't remember. But that podcast is also interesting. Right? And there's a bunch of stuff which is happening in the Indian ecosystem as well, which you can follow.
Yeah. Got it. Got it. So with this, all these changes that's happening in the space, have you seen a lot of change in the way how your clients expect what let's say a marketing agency is supposed to do? Is there any drastic change, or they still expect the same outcome? They don't really worry about the changes that has gone in. How do you see that?
I think there is awareness that the world is changing, but I don't think they fully understand. A lot of people fully understand the implications of what are happening. But from a brand side perspective, right? A brand is going to be focused around outcome more than anything else. And so, for example, if as a performance marketing agency, we are oriented towards business value, revenue delivery, right? Or if our goal is to have X number of consumer acquisitions, uh, whether I'm like punching in stuff on my keyboard or whether a co-pilot is doing it for me, or if I'm like manually going and selling the product door to door, that's not really the brand's problem, right? That's for me to
Okay.
solve. So it's largely outcome focused still. But I think over time, what will start happening is that a lot of the work, which was volume work, which was not so much strategic in terms of the output required, uh, a lot of that, the cost of that will drastically drop, right?
Yes.
Because average work will not require human beings to intervene, and banks require average work. It's not like they don't. Everything is not only just strategic work, right? So there'll be pressure on the margin side for because
Mm,
costs for things will reduce,
mm,
but the upside is that we'll be able to deliver a lot more volume with the same manpower. Right? I mean, that's going to be the
mm.
upside. And you don't want to be in a situation where for the volume work, which is adaptation and stuff like that, right? And
Yes.
regular.
Yeah.
I'm talking purely from a creative standpoint because that's where a lot of the volume work starts happening. Uh, if you have not either created or using tech stacks which are currently available, somebody will come and say that, hey, I'm going to do these 50 banners for you at a fraction of the cost that you're going to offer as an agency, right? And that's
Correct.
possible.
Correct.
Uh, the debate is that is the tech stack capable of doing strategic thinking as well? As in, can it give a big creative idea, right? Which today it's a little difficult. As in, it's possible, but it takes a little bit of hand holding. But going
Yes.
forward, even that will become very very easy. Right?
True, true. Yeah, I mean, I'm a big fan of your big creative idea and variations that
Yeah,
you create and so on, right? I'm pretty
yeah.
sure. I think with the kind of context ingestion that is possible and so on. I think at that point of time, if you recollect our conversation, one of the primary thing was that the unavailability of data with respect to the demographics and audiences and so on. I think once that is something that can be added into the context, right? I think that also is going to be something that uh, should be possible through a tech system that can start contributing to strategy at one point of time, I guess.
No, no, absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. So, how does this dynamics change with respect to people? When I say people, like hiring and the skill set management, skill set updation, and so on, with the latest change in this AI, how does that come into picture? Do you have you started looking for any new skill set that you earlier was not looking for when you hire into the team? Do you value certain kind of skill sets to be higher than the earlier scheme of things and so on? How does that change? Ali?
So just to give context, right? As in, so the path that we are on, we set an internal goal of doing 100 CR in revenue in 3 years with a 100-member team. Okay.
Wow. Okay.
That's the path we are on. Now, if you look at any current agency which is doing about 100 crores of revenue, which is a mix of media buying and creative, the team size will be upwards of 300, 400 people, right? You can't, if not more, right?
Yes.
So we are very clear that a lot of our growth will come from our either making, building, or using AI first tech stacks which are going to be available to us.
Yes.
And there's a path where we are, and you know this, that we are building certain tech stack ourselves versus rapidly deploying what is already available. It's a combination of that. Yes. With that context, if you think about it, what kind of people do I actually need, right? As in, I don't need executors. I need people who have the ability to, number one, think directionally, think more strategically, and that's pretty much it, right? As in, they don't. So you don't need people to actually create. You need people to think and direct, right? As in, this is what the right creation should be, and the creation is still going to be led by, will be led by technology, right? Same on the media bank side as well, right? Like day-to-day optimization of media does not require human beings, right? As in, that could easily become completely automated, and I suspect that since the algo will be reading data real time, the kind of efficiency that's going to be able to bring to media buying will be much more, right? A human being will see an ad account once a day. Right? If it's a very strategic, large ad account where you see it 2-3 times a day, right? Even those 2-3 times, you can't run through all the campaigns, you can't run through all the ad sites, you can't run through all the ads, right? While the algo will. So media buying will become more efficient, and there again, then the role of the media buyer also changes, right? As in, the role of the media buyer also becomes more strategic in the sense that the media buyer has to have a sense on number one, business. What products are the ones where you believe within a portfolio of a brand where you can get incremental growth from, right? As in, that thinking, and that there has to be a very clear thesis, right? And the thesis could be that, okay, the category is so big and we are here, or there is a consumer leverage opportunity somewhere or the other. So that thinking will become part of the media buyer's role, right? What creative thinking will become part of the media buyer role, which is already happening to quite a bit, right? To a large extent already. So the role of the media buyer will change, and the role of the creative will also change, right? So that's one piece of work which will happen.
Great.
So having said that, though, I think so my belief is that with all the tech stacks which are coming up, the level of work will go up completely, right?
Yes.
So what is baseline today? What is average work today? That level itself will go up, right? With that, having said that, the volume of content which brands will be able to create is going to be much more. It as in through a prompt, if you can create 50 images in one patch, that 50 images would take like 3-4 days for a graphic designer to do. So just the volume will go up. And the average will go up, right? As in, so quality average goes up, volume kind of increases tenfold, right? So imagine in a couple of years, you are sitting with fairly good quality creatives coming at scale from nearly all brands, right?
Yes.
So what we think is creative differentiation today will also have to get reimagined because everybody's capability is improved, right? True. Then there'll be another set of work which is going to be very, very strategic, non-AI, human first, insight-led work, which will start gaining traction and value as well. Because if everybody has access to the same set of tools, right? The differentiator is that your ability to use the tools. Fair enough, right? But the tool is also improving with time, right?
Yes.
So that differentiation is reducing, right? So if, for example, you can write better prompts than me, you'll probably make a creative which is 20-30% better than me today. But as the model keeps learning and growing, that differentiation will keep reducing, right? So that differentiation will also grow. So eventually, there's high value creative work which will be one piece which will become very, very valuable.
Yes.
And on the other side, just the volume of creatives with technology will improve the overall stack. I think those are the two directions I think this will take.
Mm. Great. Yeah, that's a great point of view, right? I think today probably AI adoption and like using AI is becoming it's sort of becoming inevitable in a way. But I think, as you rightly said, maybe 2 years from now, that's a given. Like I think everyone will have a baseline. From there, they will have to move. Maybe
Yeah.
being like bringing in that original, or let's say the manual way of doing certain things. I think that's going to be the yes. So coming back to the question of the people part, right now, as the composition changed, also Adi, with this, let's say for example, as you said, you don't want a lot of probably uh, doers or at an execution level, but probably you want more from a strategic as well as thinking level, who can probably make use of a lot of these tools to double down into their current line of thing. So how's the composition change? Maybe can you give us a practical example of like what was required for probably, let's say, managing a fairly sized brand's marketing efforts then, and what it is right now, and probably like what is the composition change, Aditya?
And you're talking from the brand side or the agency side?
From the agency side, like to manage a
From the
brand's
agency side. Okay. Yeah,
yeah,
got it.
yeah.
Got it. So from the agency side, typically the structure would be the following. Right? As in, you would want a couple of people who would be junior in the team who would do a lot of the execution on the ad account, right? Make an ad, create an ad, change campaign, this and that. And then there would be a person who
Yes.
would do the thinking on top of it, right? Saying what campaigns to run, what optimization, etc., right? And uh, either supported by an external data and analytics team or doing this themselves, right? As in that would typically be the point, right?
Yes.
Over time, the number one, the need to create and do changes on platforms manually will go away, right? As in that's the first thing which will go away. So this work will not be needed, right? As in this execution level work, saying, oh, set up a campaign manually, create a new ad manually, all this. And while there are tools available right now where you can automate all this, the adoption
Yeah.
of that will become much more, right?
Yes.
Then, so that skill set is not needed. Having said that, today when I'm hiring for media buying, I still need people to have the ability to execute, right?
Mm.
Potentially
Yeah.
a couple of years later, maybe a data analyst does a far better job at media buying. Somebody who's trained on
Mm.
data
Mm.
does a far better job at media buying with no understanding of how the platform works, right? Because that's for execution. And so the trainability of understanding the meta platform is easier versus somebody having core data analytics, data science skills, right?
Yeah.
So that transition, and it's going to take time, but that transition might possibly happen. So I could just get somebody who can potentially run the regressions on finding what products to sell, right? Or detailed deep analysis on how to change budgets between campaigns, etc. Uh, with no understanding of how to create an ad, because that's just a click of the button, right? As in that
That's
execution
correct.
piece is just solved for. So those things will change over time. At the moment, I don't think that change is that drastic yet.
Got it.
We're not there yet. But
Got it.
directionally, that's where it will move.
Got it.
Teams managing accounts. If earlier I needed a team of 6, 7 people to manage the account, that is reducing with that. As in, I don't need 2 copywriters on an account which is a large account, right? As in, one copywriter enabled by technology can do that job. Right? So the volume which my current art team, so over the last 3 months alone, we have pretty much 2x our creative volume, right?
Oh.
With the same number of people. What we were able to do a couple of months back with the enablement, we are able to generate 2x of that volume, right? And this is only increasing. Right? Because we are also figuring out, we are testing things, we are figuring out ways of doing it faster and better. So that number will only go up.
Got it. Got it, Aditya.
So
and one really good point that you brought up here was like, I think today the skill of knowing the channel really well is important. That's still important. Probably knowing the channel well might not be really well important over a period of time, and like probably knowing the product better or knowing the audience better might become more impactful,
Yeah, yeah,
right? Got it. Got it.
yeah. So,
Adi.
so just as an example of that, right? I think the 100-member team that I'm talking about, 60 to 65% of resourcing will be on the creative side, and 30-35% will be on media buying and analytics side.
Okay. Got it. Got it.
That's the way we kind of envision it at the moment.
Sure. And let's say, do you see these roles converging also at any point? Like maybe
Yes,
this term of full stack
yes,
marketer and so on. Like, do you think
yes,
that will happen? Okay.
yes. And that's a function of a person's interest and capability. But I think that's a very interesting space for young people, either in creative or media buying, to start building their skill sets up. Right?
Okay.
Because
So,
this convergence is super valuable. If somebody can
yeah,
think what
yeah,
to say and what campaign to run with it, right? That's a very powerful resource, right? That resource is for either a brand or an agency equivalent to 2 or 3 resources right now, right? So even if that
mm,
resource gets paid twice of what they are at today,
mm,
that's still very high monetization for as an agency, and a lot of value for the brand as well, right? Because the same mathematics apply.
yeah, yeah. Sure. So, maybe to take a little bit of like a higher level view over there. So, does it mean that becoming a generalist marketer or a full stack marketer is more impactful than being a specialist, or is there any, let's say, or is there a case where specialists are still needed and they are still, let's say, skillful at this point of time, resourceful
You
at this
have
point
to
of time?
you have to be trained in core marketing. Okay, so the speciality is training in core marketing, right? See, principles
Mm,
of marketing are not changing.
yes.
Principles of human influence are not changing, right? What needs to be
Mm,
said and how to whom to get the person to like your brand or transact with your brand, those principles at the core are not changing. So, if by full stack marketer you mean that somebody should know how to do performance marketing and social media and PR and uh, be able to think copy and look at creative and either make creative or evaluate creative, uh, I would go down the path of saying that understand principles of marketing at a baseline. Right? These are all
mm,
executions of that same principle.
right.
That is where that, and I think that is the journey a lot of people, a lot of youngsters in the field don't go through today. That journey is very valuable because then you can transpose those same skills across different things, right? As in, you don't need to uh, specifically know how to, let's say, write copy if you just understand uh, the thinking, the marketing thinking behind it, right? As in, you can, sitting today, if you understand the marketing strategy, so to say, behind a product, what to say to who for the person to buy, let's say if that is clear in your head. Now, average creative output you can do yourself today, right? With no copy training. You might not do the best creative output, but average you'll be able to do today, right? So I
Yes.
think that's where you have to over index on as a core marketing thinking.
Hmm. Got it. Got it, Adi. Okay, so when coming to the D2C brands, right, I think the uh, trends have been really important with respect to D2C brands, at least at the early stage or the mid stage and so on, right? So the real world trends, the consumer trends and so on. So is there any recent trend that probably you saw is going to be a huge impact in the space of D2C brands? And also maybe if you can dive deep into how impactful these trends are going to be moving forward and any one trend that you can highlight.
Yeah, I think a lot of brands today are chasing Gen Z early stage audiences
Mm,
today. Right?
mm,
I think there are some numbers in India which are saying that about 30% of the population will reach 60 by 2050 or something. As in, I don't remember the exact math, but there's a significant number of people who in the next 20 years will become 60, right? And I be one of them. In exactly 20 years, I'll become 60, right? If brands start thinking of long-term growth and long-term value, this is a market which I think is fundamentally underserved. Right?
mm.
As in,
Yeah.
that is something where there is some initial work which has started happening, especially in the health space.
Okay.
So you see product nutraceutical categories coming up which are more anti-aging, longevity oriented. There are services
Yes.
businesses which are coming up. I think that's one trend which is happening, right? One trend which should should kick off at some point in India for some reason. I don't know why it hasn't. Is live commerce. Live commerce is huge, right? As in, and I think China is the only successful case study of live commerce. Even US is not that big yet, but I think that's something that we should also see.
Got it, Adi. So I think this has been great, Adi. I think we had a really great set of discussions on these questions. And any one, like, as a last question, any one comment for any upcoming D2C brand, where, let's say, with respect to someone who wants to probably get their marketing started, right? You earlier mentioned about the channel, probably, let's say, something like going with a D2C itself as a channel. But what would be the immediate next step, or what would be one advice that you would want to give to a D2C founder?
Think really hard before you really go out and launch. Right?
Okay.
Is what your product offering really valuable to people? Is the delta in their lives, is the impact that you are able to create enough for them to justify either switching from their current products that they're using to solve that problem, or paying a premium? D2C brands fundamentally in India right now getting built, which are premium to category incumbents. Think really hard, because it's not that easy. Right? As in, most people in the world don't need another shampoo. Right? But if you decide to launch a shampoo, it better be very, very good. Right? And very good, meaning different from what is already out there. So I think that choice framework is important. And the second thing is, think more around the messaging side of brand versus the visual side of brand, right? I think putting a brand visual identity, which is usually known as a brand book, in place doesn't solve for what you're going to say, right? And a badly executed brand book, and if you have very basic brand visual language, but if you are able to say things powerfully and powerful things, is a far better place to be in versus having stunning visuals but nothing meaningful which you are saying. As in, over-index your effort there versus how your brand looks. If you had to make that choice, ideally both, but if you have to make that choice, over-index, yeah. So as in, those are the two things which I would kind of say.
Thanks a lot for this. Thanks a lot for your time, and thanks a lot for such a valuable lessons. Some of these are, I always admired you for the way how you look at brand and how you look at D2C. I think we were able to go into some of the details, I guess. Maybe we'll have to do even a larger one and go even more deeper in some other episode.
So much for having me, and I think hockey is great, and we're just getting started. There's a lot of good things ahead for you.